Hi, this is Kofi Kumi from Photography, the maker of the KinemaPhoto and KinemaPhoto Lite extensions for Adobe Photoshop. And in today, I am going to show you essentially how KinemaPhoto works, the very basics of it as well. So KinemaPhoto Adobe Photoshop Extension, when you purchase it and you download and you install it, once you open Photoshop, you can go to Window, Extensions, and KinemaPhoto will be there. You select it and it'll show up here. The colorful version icon is for the full version of KinemaPhoto, while the white one, or blue, depending on how you set your screen, is going to be for KinemaPhoto Lite, which is very similar, except not all the functions are working. So it's kind of basic. KinemaPhoto has 4 main sections: selecting your clip, creating your still mask, setting loop, and some finishing touches, so like color grading, etc. And this is really just a standard workflow for creating animation in Photoshop. So it's really helpful to really kind of follow this workflow. It helps the extension as well. The extension kind of keeps track of what you're doing when you hit the buttons. So that also helps make the loop a lot quicker and easier. So if I hit select clip, you'll see the menu come up, and you have some options to load your video, trim it, and of course reset if you make mistakes. So first thing I'm going to do is load my video. I'm going to load this one, woman in a red dress. So this is a 4K video from a Fuji X-T2. So it's also in F-Log mode, so that's why it looks pretty flat. So this allows some more options if we want to kind of color grade later as well, and a bit more flexibility, but we will get into that in a little bit. So what do I want to do? So first thing I want to do is find where I want my video to start. So I'm just going to move the playhead and let's say about this 3-second mark, and I'm going to hit set start, right? It is important to use the set start and set end buttons so that KinemaPhoto can kind of track where your clip is going. This helps a lot of the later functions as well. If you're having trouble with the playback, always just lower the resolution. So that's my set point. I'll do my end point at about 2.5 seconds later. Set my end point. Okay. I hit play just to test it out. All right, so as you can see, there's a river kind of moving, and she's moving back and forth just slightly, right? So I want to keep her still, but I want to keep the river moving. So I'm going to hit stop right there. And next thing I want to do is kind of trim my video. If you hit trim selected, it will trim the layer you're currently on. Trim all is kind of best practice because it'll trim all the layers. And this is very helpful if you're later on in your composition and maybe you have multiple layers, you bring in multiple images, etc. All right, so now it's trimmed, it's lopped off the beginning and the end. And the next thing I'm going to want to do is create still and mask. So I click on that, and it can create a still from either the selected frame of the video layer on, from all the layers that are visible if you have a complex composition, or import a file. One of the things I really like about KinemaPhoto and the fact that it's in Photoshop is I don't actually have to do as much for importing and exporting files if I have to clean up the file itself, because I'm already in Photoshop, so I can do that quite easily. So next I'm going to create a still layer from the selected one. So I'm going to hit selected. Okay, and now with that, it's now created a still frame on top. So I've hit play, nothing's moving. And that's because the still layer, the still photo is on top, and we have to reveal the motion underneath. So automatically it's kind of created a mask, and it's set the brush so that we can start revealing the motion. And so now I'm just going to paint, and it kind of shows me where I'm painting all the stuff in red. If I was doing this for a client or something, I would certainly be more careful. But just for the purpose of this, I'm just doing a quick show. So now I've hit play. All right. And I can toggle the mask by hitting toggle mask. So, and hit play and test it out. All right, it's looking pretty good. But one thing you'll notice is you can actually see where it jumps and where it starts again. So we have to tackle that problem. So next, now that I've kind of revealed my motion, I'm going to go to set loop, right? And I'm going to make sure I'm clicked on my video layer. And what I can do then is just add a loop. Right, so it's added this loop to my video, right, at exact end, nice and quickly. All right, I'm going to add one more loop. Actually, before I add the loop, next thing I actually want to do is fade, right? So we want to tackle that jumping issue. So I'm on the bottommost layer at the moment, and what it's going to do when I hit set fade is apply a fade to the layer above it. And that works on the video layer above it. So I'm going to hit set fade. And it's at about a 30% fade. So I'm just going to move the playhead here. And that 30% fade looks pretty good. I might give it just, bump it up just a little bit, go about 40%. All right, and so now the fade, if I look, will be just slightly longer and maybe just a little bit smoother. All right, great. So I'm going to add another loop. So I'm on the bottommost layer, I'm going to hit add loop. And now what it will do is it will add the next loop, but again, it doesn't add it with the fade. So if you wanted to change the fade between layers for whatever reason, you can certainly do that. So now I'm on the bottommost layer. I'm going to hit set fade again. So it's going to go back and add that 40% loop. Or 40% fade. Great. So now I have a longer clip. It's about 8 seconds and all the layers are fading. Now, when it gets to the very end, right? And this is one of the more difficult parts about creating cinemagraphs in Photoshop. But when it gets to the very end, you're going to see the jump, right? So we have to tackle that too. So I'm going to make sure I'm selecting the bottommost layer. I'm going to make the fade the same. So I'm going to do it at 40%. And then I'm going to hit set end. There you go. It's going to quickly go through and it's going to set the end fade. How quickly it does this depends on your system. Okay. All right. And so now that it's at the end there, so now I'm going to go to finishing touches and I want to color grade this a little bit. So first thing I'll do actually is add a LUT. So like I said, this is kind of flat. If you go to your camera, if you shoot in any sort of log video format, if you go to the manufacturer, you'll be able to usually find some LUTs that kind of can do some basic color correction on the video. So I'm just going to select one of the ones from Fuji. F-Gamut, so that's automatically looking a lot better. It added a lot of contrast. Next thing I might actually want to do is I'm actually going to add a hue saturation layer. And I think what I want to do is I want to target the reds. So just like you would work on hue saturation in a photo, target the reds, make it just a little bit more red and maybe just a little bit darker. Maybe I'll target, I don't know, some yellows. Actually, I want to target the greens next. And maybe for the saturation for the greens, I'm going to move them a little bit to the left. That might make them a little bit more yellow. And again, I might want to make it just a little bit darker. Great. And finally, I want to add the other thing we have here is kind of a random color grade. And we'll put that at top. And it is random. So you can kind of cycle through, see if any of them that you like. That's a bit strong, a bit too green for me, a bit too blue. Let's see. Okay, that's a little warm and I like it, but it's a little strong. So I'm just going to go fill just a little bit less. Next thing I want to do is add a vignette. So I want to make sure I select the kind of selector tool here. And I'm just going to add select the area that I kind of want to still be bright and it will vignette everything around it. So then if I hit add vignette, let's create a bit of a vignette. We can see the outline and it's a bit intense. So I'm actually going to turn down the intensity a bit. And I might increase the softness a little bit more. You know what? Rethinking it, I'm going to add a curve. One more curve on top of all this. Get a little bit brighter. Increase intensity of my vignette. Okay. And that I'm happy with. So now I can go to export. And women in red dress, full document size. It's a 4K video. I'm actually going to go to quarter. And I'll call it 540 just to remind myself I can export an MP4 or as a GIF. And there we go. Okay, and now the export is complete. So let me pull up the video. There we go. And there we go. And now everything here is still, the river is moving. It's a pretty good loop and nice and seamless. All right. And so you can embed this on your website and, set it to do an endless loop, and you'll get that effect as well. All right. So thanks so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please subscribe for more tutorials for tips, tricks on how to create cinemagraphs, GIFs. And if you're interested in potentially downloading KinemaPhoto Lite to try it out or purchasing KinemaPhoto, please visit www.KinemaPhoto. If you like this video, then I encourage you to subscribe to the KinemaPhoto YouTube channel, where I'll continue to give you tips and tricks for creating cinemagraphs, GIFs, and editing video in Adobe Photoshop.